You've waited, you've been asking, you know I've been messing around with these. It's finally time. Soon TM is here. Let's talk about the E3D ObXidian. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It is finally time. The embargo on this amazing nozzle is up. The E3D ObXidian. Now, the ObXidian is part of the REVO family. In fact, we've got a bone stock Prusa Mini Plus and a Prusa Mini Plus with a REVO and a couple of other upgrades on it. We'll card to the video so you can take a look. And they are running identical G-code. This printer was previously running a 1.8mm Bondtech CHT nozzle. And that means I forgot to recalibrate the Z offset. So that's why they're a little bit apart in terms of speed. But they are both running 0.4mm nozzles. They are both running PLA, except this PLA, well, it's a little bit harder. And here's what I can tell you about the REVO ObXidian. It's hard. It's really, really hard. To get the third, really, you're gonna have to subscribe to the OnlyFans. That's a joke. We don't have an OnlyFans. But this thing is insane. We've been running a lot with the 0.6, which I have here. 0.4 is on the machine right now, but I wanted to compare apples to apples. It is identical G-code from machine to machine. The temperatures are the same. The cooling is the same. And because the cooling ducts are identical from machine to machine, we should not have any significant differences here. Now, I do know for a fact this Bowden tube is a little bit longer, but it won't matter at the end of the day because the retraction distances are still the same. Anyways, less about the printers, more about this badass nozzle. So the thing with the ObXidian, when you compare it to a standard REVO 6 nozzle, you'll notice that the ObXidian is copper on the back end with a steel heat break and then some black material on the nozzle. Whereas the regular E3D REVO is brass, steel, and then brass once again. I will not try to run carbon fiber through a regular REVO 6 nozzle because I don't have them laying around like candy. We've had a lot of questions about the ObXidian since we got it. We were able to publicly talk about it, and thank you to E3D for sending it over. Of course, no money was exchanged hands. They have not requested a review, but come on. Who the hell's not gonna review this thing that's had it? You know I'm gonna do it, I know I'm gonna do it, and all the other YouTubers know I'm gonna do it too. I will say that this is pretty much the last REVO nozzle you will ever need. Unless I come up with a diamond version or a ruby version. By the way, we're looking to get some of the folks from the Olsen Ruby team to come hang out on a podcast. Make sure you get subscribed. That is something that you wanna check out, because previously, we've had the crew from Champion X, which makes the Diamondback Diamond nozzle. We'll card to their video series so you guys can take a look. But I will say, in printing over 4 kilograms of carbon fiber parts, this thing is bulletproof. Now, full disclosure, I've basically only ever used the 0.6. When you're running carbon fiber and other fiber-filled materials or even glass fiber materials, you really want to stay away from 0.4, but I don't have regular 0.6 nozzles that aren't special anymore. They're all on other printers and I didn't feel like taking them off, so we're gonna run the 0.4 and see how it does. For reference, this is eSun Matte Gray PLA, and this is 3DX Tech Carbon Fiber PLA. And the thing about the carbon fiber PLA from 3DX Tech is it is at least 20% chopped carbon fiber. This is not ground carbon fiber. These are long strand chopped fibers. So there is a chance this print might actually clog. And when you look at that percentage of carbon fiber, a 0.4 nozzle, pretty much pushing your luck. But I have faith in the ObXidian. Now, we don't know pricing yet. Pre-orders should go on sale here relatively soon. In fact, I'm hoping that by the time this video is out, more information about the REVO ObXidian is out. But I'm guessing these things are not gonna be cheap. I have absolutely abused the ever-loving hell out of it. Now, not as much as Mr. Proper Printing has done. He had an ObXidian nozzle that met an untimely demise. That's something to talk about. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about the downsides of the REVO system, and Mr. Proper Printing, of course, found this out the hard way. Because your heat break as well as your connection to your heat sink is all integrated into the nozzle, when you bend your heat break, it's time to get a whole new nozzle. And unfortunately, these nozzles are quite a bit more expensive than your standard V6. My expectation is this will be north of $50 for the nozzle, but we'll see. Pricing has not yet been released. And if it is, by the time this video goes live, we'll put it up on the screen for you guys. But ultimately, if you're not running multiple G's of acceleration, you're not running your printers within an inch of their life when it comes to their speeds, their feeds, their movement, you're really not gonna run into that problem. In all of my years of 3D printing, over a decade now of 3D printing basically daily, I have only ever bent one heat break, and it was absolutely my fault. And in John's case, it was also his fault. And it sucks because that's a very expensive lesson to learn, but it's one you have to consider when you're looking at nozzles like the ObXidian. But we do have to look at some of the other downsides. This is not a full silicone sock. In fact, it's a minimal silicone sock at best. As you can see here, there's a lot of crap that is built up on this nozzle. And you can see some blue PLA. In fact, this is the benchy that was made with that blue PLA. I find that the ObXidian is pretty much the last nozzle you'll ever need on a REVO system. This was the CHT nozzle. This was the REVO nozzle, this was the REVO nozzle, and this was the 1.8 millimeter CHT. We'll card to that video so you guys can take a look. That was when I took a look at the 1.8 millimeter CHT, along with a few others, my good friend Courtney over at Filament Stories. Looking at my experiences with the REVO ObXidian, I have been incredibly happy with it. I mean, beyond the fact that I got it at least a month and a half, 2 months before it was publicly available, which is pretty damn cool, but also the fact that we had the opportunity to just absolutely abuse them and provide E3D with feedback to allow them to potentially make them better. I do love the rainbow bit that you have on the ObXidian. It happens right at the transition between this throat here, which is what actually touches the heater core itself, going to the nozzle. But overall, the nozzle has performed incredibly well on regular materials, fiber-filled materials, everything from carbon fiber PLA to carbon fiber nylon. It has not even broken a sweat. And we actually did a conversion on one of our Mark III's to the REVO 6, which has been running the other REVO ObXidian. So the 0.6 has been out with the Mini, the 0.4 has been inside with the V6. And I will tell you, it is going blow to blow with the diamond nozzle. Now, mind you, the temperatures are not as low as something made out of polycrystalline diamond, so you're not going to be dumping any temperatures down. But what I've also noticed is you're not turning temperatures up either. Something about the Nozzle X that always frustrated me was that you needed to increase your temperatures. And if you didn't remember, or you were a first timer and didn't know, you were gonna have prints that just would not work. That's kind of a problem when you're spending $40 on a Nozzle X. Again, I do expect these to cost more than a Nozzle X. Obviously, there's more involved in this. And no, it is not open source. I don't think I've had any failures with the ObXidian that weren't mine alone. I'm sure Stefan will do a wonderful video comparing its flow capabilities to the regular REVO, but I'm not Stefan, and I'm not that cool. I'll leave that one up to him. Go check out his channel. We'll card to it and link it in the description as well. And I'm hoping that he mills one of these in half, because I'd love to see what the inside of this looks like. Something that we don't know yet is what this material or metal of some sort that the ObXidian is made out of. It is not obsidian stone, and I don't feel like doing a scratch test on this to figure out what it is. Something to note as well, there have been reports of issues with the E3D REVO system. However, E3D is doing amazing jobs at dealing with those problems. With this heater core, which involves a full 360-degree PTC heater, as well as an integrated thermistor, there are gonna be some manufacturing challenges, and unfortunately, they are becoming a problem for some users. Now, the two that we have are running like Swiss watches. Absolutely no problems that I have found, and we have been running them all the time. They run great, so I don't have anything personally to say about that, but we do have some patrons that are hanging out in our Discord server. By the way, If you want to kick a couple of bucks into that creator fund, go and hang out with all the other Musketeers. You can do so by joining the $10 tier or higher at Patreon, linked in the description down below, or the $10 tier at YouTube channel memberships. Greatly appreciate your support if you can muster it. And if not, hey, a like, subscribe, and a share so other people can watch the videos go a long way to helping the channel grow. No, monetary or otherwise, we appreciate your support. Now, I have never done a one-for-one comparison like this with the ObXidian versus a regular nozzle that are identical. Wouldn't it be cool if I had two REVO micros, but don't, to compare the brass versus the ObXidian? But honestly, outside of the fact that the ObXidian is hardened, I have not really noticed a big difference here. They run, like I said, totally fine. We are running 100 millimeters per second on the Mini right now, and I will include the 3MF file for all of our Patreon supporters if you do so want to give this G-code a try for yourself. It should work. Should. I will say the fact that there is the REVO 6 and the REVO Micro is awesome. If you already have a machine that runs an E3D V6, it is a direct drop-in to add in the REVO 6. I think that is very valuable when you're looking at upgrade paths to go from something like the V6 over to a REVO. If you made it complicated where you had to build a bunch of different custom crap, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. But E3D has thought about this ahead of time, made a REVO 6 variant, as well as the REVO Micro version, which we see here on the Mini, and as well as provided pre-done STL files. All you have to do is print them out and set it to go. This one was printed in carbon fiber PETG with the Diamondback nozzle, but I do actually have some awesome prints off of the REVO in carbon fiber. If you watched our video about the Minshin Beagle Cam, where I was not all that impressed with it, it works, but it doesn't send the code to do retraction. This is another one of the proper printing skulls. This one is in carbon fiber PETG. And outside of areas where we clearly had some buildup that caused some issues, the bulk of this print is absolutely gorgeous. Carbon fiber is honestly a great material to print with. It is expensive, of course, and it is very abrasive. As we've shown on Print Fix Friday multiple times, if you run even a few grams of carbon fiber, even glow-in-the-dark material through a brass nozzle, you're gonna have a bad time. And for some people, when you're running those cheaper Mark 10 nozzles, they have a tendency to just break. So don't do that. If you are someone that takes reliability seriously, and I say this with a grain of salt because there have been those issues, E3D is fixing them. So to me, it's fine. They're on top of it. They're working on it. They've made some hardware revisions already. And you can tell because the new ones have a blue thermistor cable versus white for both of your cables. That's one of the big revisions that they've made. I'm sure that involves something internal, but external, it's a blue cable, so you can tell. But it appears that those that want to mess around with different nozzle diameters really will benefit from something like the REVO. Now, mind you, the REVO system is not the first, nor is it the last to do a one-handed nozzle change. It is, however, the first that I am aware of to do a one-handed nozzle change while cold. Now, do note, you will have to make sure that your filament is unloaded, but that goes for basically any nozzle swap. You'll want to make sure that your filament is completely taken out of the printer before you go ahead and make that swap. And that is because, simply, you don't want the filament to ooze out of your nozzle. But for something like the REVO, because it doesn't have to be a hot process, it won't come apart because it's not soft. You have a problem. I found that the nozzle swaps are great. I absolutely love them. For those that don't unload in between prints that do want to change the nozzles often, just make sure you remember to unload your filament. You'll be fine. I think it's a very minor inconvenience for the ease of use factor that you get with something like the ObXidian or like the REVO system in general. Again, I would like to see a more overall covered silicone sock, but I do appreciate how the socks are also color coded. Blue means 0.6, red means 0.4, and yellow means 0.25. They have other sizes as well, but these are the three that I currently possess. I know there's a 0.8, and I believe there are some other ones coming out, but I'm very excited. A lot of our Patreon supporters are just chomping at the bit to get these, and I get questions all the time. Hey, when are REVOs coming out? The answer is soon, TM. Well, now, soon is gonna be the next couple of weeks. I'm really excited to see these get out into the wild with more than just the reviewers. Of course, we run a print farm. We do a lot of 3D printing for others as well as ourselves. And so we have been using ours quite a bit but I know there are people that do way more printing than myself who might get more value out of it as well. The only thing that I don't know yet, and it is something that worries me, is the price point. If it does get close to $100 for a nozzle, it will become a bit of a struggle between something like an Olsen Ruby, a Diamondback, or going over to ObXidian with the REVO. Because remember, the REVO alone is this much. And the REVO with the multi-pack with all the nozzles is this much. And so if you have to add this price on top of those prices, we've got ourselves a bit of an expenditure. However, for schools like FRC teams or learning centers, colleges, even middle school, high schools, the REVO makes it so it is simple, easy, and effective to change nozzles. That means the likelihood of a kid getting burned is lower, the likelihood of a teacher getting burned is lower. And someone doesn't have to have very specific training on how to change a nozzle to use a freaking 3D printer. Because I will tell you, when it comes to basic maintenance that is needed often on a 3D printer, nozzle swaps are one of the more pain in the ass ones that I believe exist. And with the REVO, that's a thing of the past. And so for me, as a business owner, we will be slowly moving over to the REVO system. We are gonna keep some V6s around because of course we have diamond nozzles, we have some ruby nozzles, and there are just some printers that I'm not ready to make the upgrade to. Oh shit, it clogged. As I said earlier, clogging might happen, and this absolutely did clog. It's why I try not to run a lot of fiber-filled materials through these machines. So unfortunately, well, this one's dead. Now, something that I do want to find out, we're going to find this out pretty quickly. I'm going to find out if we can push through the clog. Now, with the basic setup, we couldn't. But maybe, just maybe, we can push through it. We'll be better on the other side. Now, understand this benchy is dead, and I will need to print another one. And I am going to increase the extruder pressure just to see if we can get through. Yep, we were able to push through the clog, so all is well there. Now, because the print failed, and it failed a while ago, I will not be able to restart it, so we will have to fail this and start one all over again. And just to make it easy, I'm gonna reset the printer. Now I will say, the part that it did print looks absolutely gorgeous. The bow of the boat, perfect. The top layers, perfect. Similar to the diamond nozzle, it basically auto irons your first layer, which is pretty damn cool. So let's start that benchy one more time and let's see how she runs. I wish I had a 0.6 that I could put on here that isn't a CHT because, as I talked about in the beginning of the video, it is common for 0.4 millimeter nozzles to get clogged when running fiber-filled materials. To combat this, you can lower your speeds, but I've never found that to be a necessity. If I run a cheaper carbon fiber filament, I'm not gonna name the brand because I can't recommend them, which I am fairly certain is just carbon fiber dust put into the filament. I have never had an issue with the 0.4. But generally when I'm running the good stuff, I'm running the 0.6. So that is something to keep in mind. If you are gonna run a bunch of fiber-filled material, maybe go with the 0.6 instead of the 0.4. And as Tom Sadlatterer has talked about, we'll cart to his video, the 0.6 is pretty darn good, and you can get 95% of a 0.4 with a 0.6. And even further, he found that if you just set a 0.4 nozzle to a 0.6 nozzle, it also works just fine. So me, I like the fatter lines. You can still go down to 0.2, no problem. And when I'm doing FDM, I'm generally going for strength rather than pretty. If I want pretty, I'm going to resin. But mind you, there is nothing like carbon fiber. But yeah, guys, that's my take on the ObXidian. Are you gonna get one? I'd love to know. And if pricing isn't released, what do you think it should be priced at? And if it is released, what do you think of that price? I'm gonna buy them no matter what. I think that there's a lot of value to them, but I will be buying the 0.6 and the 0.8. I don't honestly know if I'm gonna buy another 0.4. I find myself using bigger nozzles these days as just prints faster. But I will tell you, boy howdy, this thing prints great. That's all I got for you guys. Again, let me know what your thoughts are down in those comments. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video, and a massive thank you goes out to all of our Patreon and YouTube channel member supporters whose names are listed right next to me. Remember, if you want to get your name in our videos, you can click those links in that description down below and join. You can get into the videos as well as come hang out with us in the Discord. Right below me will be the entire upgrade series to get this Prusa Mini to where it is today. And right next to that will be the video regarding the CHT, which is what this printer has been running for quite some time. It does thick ass layers. I'll see you guys down in those comments and in the next one. Take care.